This video is sponsored by the Scrapping Cottage, where cottage cuts are always blooming. Hey everybody, it's Janet with SugarShine Designs, and today I'm here to bring you this cute little Get Well card featuring an Oh No phrase, a fun foam bow, a cut window, and inside another phrase and another window, and then of course this cute little cat with all of his owies all bandaged up. Very cute. So let's look at what was used to make this card. First, the two windows were created using the nest stitch scallop rectangle and the double stitched rectangle, and the scallop was used for the larger window opening and the plain for the inside. Then I used Build a Bow. This is a great cottage cuts die for your collection, and I used fun foam to make this. Now I used Sending Hugs inside, and it came from the Sending Hugs bear. This one's also great because there's so many uses for this little bear and his flower besides any kind of Get Well card. And then of course the star of the show is the Oh No kitty with his little band-aids all over the place, poor little thing, and the phrase as well, of course, on the front. So let's get started making this card. The first step here is to create the windows, and I first do that with the second largest stitched scalloped rectangle die, and I centered that about where I wanted it, made sure it was level, I secured it with washi tape, and ran it through my Gemini. Then it's time to do the second cut, and I used the stitched rectangle set for that. Picked the one that fit nicely inside the first window, secured it, made sure it was level, and ran that through. And the effect of this is that you get two windows, one larger on top of a slightly smaller window, and it gives it a more 3D effect. I really like the feeling you get from it. Now I kept the pieces that I cut for these windows and returned them back as mats in the inside. So the first one I flipped over and glued in, and the second one I did the same, and so that creates a nice mat inside. After doing all this, I thought that the front still looked a little plain, so I decided to make a frame for the first window. And I did that by using the largest nested stitch scalloped rectangle die in the set. And then I cut a 3x4 white cardstock template, which I adhered with temporary adhesive and then just used it to cut around the frame like you're seeing me doing here. The end result is a frame that fit just perfectly the way I wanted. It allowed some of the scallop part to show through while still highlighting and framing up my cat in the inside. I really advise for this card style that you use double-sided cardstock, just for the simple reason that you're going to have two different patterns which work good contrasting each other, and also the colors are going to match up pretty well. This last part is just showing you that I glued it on using wet glue, but what I really want you to see is how much it added to the front of that card by putting that frame on. And now I have a very interesting 3D style window. Moving on, I'm showing you how I did this little kitty cat. After I cut it out of gray cardstock, I used black chalk and just highlighted the edges of him as well as where his features were, such as like his head and his chin there, where his body is, and his legs and paws. And then I moved on to his paws itself, and I used Spectrum Noir markers TB2 and TB3 on white cardstock. And the goal here is just to get some light gray coloring with some darker gray highlighting to highlight his, or pull out his little claws. And so when I color like this, I will use my lighter color first, and then I use the darker color next, and then I take the lighter one and go over the top again. And for me, this works pretty well. The blending is a little easier. You know, I don't profess to be a great colorer at all, and I haven't invested in the expensive markers. I like my Spectrum Noirs because they're fairly inexpensive, and for what I use them for, I'm very happy with them. Here I use PP1 and that dreaded PP2. I've said this before, PP2, it's like PP1? No, PP2. Anyway, little potty humor, I guess. Maybe that comes from having a boy in the house. but I did hit the little ears as accents there. And then I was looking at the Band-Aid, and I wanted to do something to give it some sheen like a real Band-Aid, and the closest color I had in embossing powder to a Band-Aid was the Stampendous embossing powder in Paprika. And I coated that using my Versamark ink, and then I did that actually twice to get a good coating on it. The color is a little bit off. It's a little bit more yellow than tan, but overall I liked the effect, and the embossing powder soaked into the impressions made by the die, so you can see that it's definitely a Band-Aid. Now on my phrases I used Spectrum Noir markers again, and I tried to create an ombre effect using red on the Oh No, and then I used blues on the Sending Hugs phrases. And I just used them, you know, with the lightest color on top and the darkest color at the bottom, and blended them together so that they were light to dark in a nice little ombre shading effect. While you're watching me finishing this up, I just wanted to take a second and invite you over to my SugarShine Designs channel. You'll find my link in the video description of this video. And if you go over there, you'll see that I do lots of other things with stamps and other die cuts, occasionally make a scrapbook page or something like that. And if you like what I do here, I think you'll like what I do over there. Hopefully we'll see ya. All right, so now we're ready to put this card together, and I have the double-sided foam tape on my cat, and it's just a matter of placing it in the center of the smallest window there. You can take a look now at the bow one more time. I used again fun foam for this so that when I put it in my envelope it'll squash down, but when I take it out it will pop back up. I really enjoyed using the Build-A-Bow die. It's something I just got, and I'm definitely going to use it a little bit more, I think. It's a nice bow and adds a lot of dimension to a project and sort of that finishing touch. And speaking of finishing touches, here is the inside of the card where I used the 3 colors of blue markers on the Sending Hugs phrase, and I think you can see there that there's an even greater ombre effect going on there with the use of 3 colors rather than just 2 in the first phrase, the Oh No. To finish my card, I just added some enameled dots to the front, and voila, this project is complete. Well, I hope you've enjoyed being here with me today. I'll be back in a few weeks, but until then, keep crafting. Bye.